to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note the emergency exits. They're at the back on either side and up front. There are doors on either side. Please leave in an orderly fashion as quickly as possible in case of an emergency. This is a smoke-free and vape-free school district. Smoking and vaping is not permitted in the building or anywhere on school grounds. This is also a hate-free and bully-free school district. Meetings of the Board of Education are held in public so that the public can observe, but it is not a meeting with the public. However, the board will provide for public participation later in the meeting. There must be decorum in the audience so as to permit the board to conduct the business of the district. This includes no outburst or comments from the audience. Any breaches of this decorum will result in a warning, and upon a second occurrence, the person or persons interfering with the conduct of business will be escorted from the auditorium by security. That's our standard expectation. I'm not saying it because I anticipate that we will have to resort to that. This meeting does not follow our usual agenda. You notice that it's a shortened agenda. We have on the agenda our budget presentation, and following that, there will be an opportunity for the board to hear comments from the public. So at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our administration for the budget presentation.
Thank you very much, Ann. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's a big night. We had a vote, community spoke. And there is going to be a little bit of a change here tonight, because the community spoke loud and clear. And we said we'd come back and show you a contingent budget. Now, you are going to hear about the contingent budget, but before you do, the presentation is going to show you something before the contingent budget. Because quite frankly, the contingent budget is so draconian, and we lose local control. When you go to a contingent budget, the state says you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. It's not going to be an easy night, and the next few months are going to be challenging. But the bottom line is, and I'm very proud of the Board of Education, we just had a very intense conversation, and we're all united in we want to put South Country back on solid financial footing and provide the programs for our students that we have provided. Now, all we ask is your patience. Mr. Belmonte is going to do a presentation in a second, and then people are going to have a chance to come to the mic. We also had people, I noticed at the end of the public participation, we received about a dozen emails, just under, I think it was 11, and we'll address them at the end of your comments. So it's time for Mr. Belmonte to, we spent the whole weekend together. We got to know each other very well. And I do want to publicly thank the board for their support. These folks have been here, been through it, and they keep coming back. And they want this fixed. And I want to thank Jason and Jackie and John, because nobody should have to spend that much time with me over the weekend. All right, so thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your patience, and most importantly, you'll see at the end, everybody's in the community is going to have a chance to communicate with us and express their opinion. So sit back, enjoy the presentation. I shouldn't say enjoy. Listen carefully, and these are the first steps back to recovery. Thank you.
Okay, guys, that's the wrong presentation. Today is May 26th. Well, thank everyone for joining us while we go through some technical corrections here. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my central office colleagues for the amount of time in a very short period of time that we were able to sit down and put something together. So with that, a special thanks to Mr. Hutzman and Jackie O'Hagan for their efforts, along with spending the weekend with our new superintendent of schools. It certainly was very enlightening. I get to spend more time with him than I did with my wife over the last 3 days. So with that, okay, this is the budget. So thank you all again, and okay, so as the superintendent has indicated, we heard the community loud and clear. This was no doubt a unprecedented message that was sent to the school district when you have a 71% no vote. So with that, we have a mission to go forward and to present a plan to the community. So before we get into the budget piece, I think it really is important to review the fiscal plan and where we are in the deficit. As the community knows, we did receive special act legislation of $11 million and also a general fund advance of $7 million. One of the things that was very prominent in one of our last presentations was the fact that one of the community members, if I can advance this slide, one of the community members asked the question, what are we going to do to ensure that this situation does not happen again? And these are some of the safeguards that were put in place with the special act legislation. And I think this is a very, very important piece for the community to understand. So we can say with great confidence that the fiscal oversight is in place. Besides what we did internally, besides of the internal controls that were made, the changes in the business office, the communications, this particular legislation puts that fiscal oversight in place. And what that means is beginning for the 26-27 school year through 2054-55. I hope I'm here then, but maybe not. So you can see that's a period of 30 years in a row. The district's chief fiscal officer is required to monitor all district budgets and prepare quarterly financial reports. So as we said previously, this money that the district agreed to accept comes with a significant amount of strings. So what does the district have to do on a quarterly basis? It's very comprehensive. We have to summarize the budget data. We have to provide individual budget line and item activities. We have to provide a comparison between actual and budgeted revenues. And the same thing on the appropriation side. We have to identify unfavorable variances, including revenue overestimations and expenditure underestimations. We have to recommend remedial or corrective action from the superintendent or the chief fiscal officer if we happen to run astray. And we have to provide quarterly a trial balance and general ledger prepared with the governmental accounting standards and the controller's guidelines. So as you can see, the reporting requirements are very comprehensive. And in the legislation, it tells us when we have to report. So it's not subjective. At the end of each quarter, September, December, March, and June, we have 60 days to provide that information. And who do we provide it to? In the bottom right, you'll see that the submissions doesn't just go to one particular person. It starts out with the Board of Education. It goes to the New York State Division of Budget. It goes to the Office of the State Controller. It goes to the Commissioner of Education. It goes to the Chair of the Assembly Ways and Means Committee. And it goes to the Chair of the Senate Finance Committee. So that is a pretty impressive group of people, that this has to be done on a quarterly basis for a period of up to 30 years, okay? And the budget oversight, as you see, is going to be consistent with the legislation as was passed. So having said that, and the community now has a better understanding as to what the fiscal oversight is, just to bring the community up to speed on where we are in the process. We already have received the $7 million advance in general aid on May 18th from the State Education Department. That has helped us considerably in meeting our year-end obligations. We had a sale of the bond anticipation note that took place on May 20th. We dated those bond anticipation notes for a period of 1 year. And I'm happy to say that the net interest cost to the district was 4.035%. And I'll get to why that's so important as we go forward. We plan on closing on this particular band on May 28th. And at the time that the band matures, on May 28, 2027, we will convert that to a long-term bond. And at the time we get to that point in 2027, Board of Education can determine whether they would want either a 5-year term, a 7-year term, or a 10-year term. These particular bonds can be funded up to a period of 10 years. So, more importantly, the Standard & Poor's Global bar on the bottom, we had spent several days working with Standard & Poor's based on the district's fiscal crisis. I was very pleased that we were only knocked down 2 notches from a AA rating to an A+ rating. And that was only because of the fiscal plan that was put in place and a short period of time that the district reacted to implement the plan to cover a 3-year period. They did add a caveat on it. We were placed on what they call credit watch negative. And what that means for the district was that they were very happy to see what we did. But they said, we need to see the plan materialize more. We want to see what happens with the voter-approved budget on May 19th. Okay? So what credit watch negative means to the district, that Standard & Poor's has the right within 90 days to modify our credit rating. Okay, so I'm happy to say that when we sold those bond anticipation notes and received a 4.0%, okay, that did not come into play. It was based on a high credit rating for the school district. Now, we have a whole year until those bonds mature. And depending on what our credit rating will be, is going to determine what the possible interest cost could be to the district. So that's the update on the debt financing and where we are. At this particular point, we'd like to jump into the budget discussion. If I can get my clicker to work. And I guess the question is, where do we go from here? We know that the budget failed. We know that it failed overwhelmingly. Message sent. We know the transportation proposition passed. So what we have on the first line there is that the failed budget on May 19th. We know that the transportation referendum passed. So we're able to reduce that budget by $900,000 to come up with a new baseline as we start this discussion. So basically what we're going to show you this evening is what is entailed to get down to the cap, to reduce that failed budget by $5,670,000, less than $900,000 that was already approved by the community. And then going beyond that, if the district was to end up on contingency, we would have to reduce another $4 million from that budget. At this point, I think it's a clear expectation that based on what the community has said at the May vote, that there's little or no interest in trying to pierce the cap again. So probably the best and the most conservative thing for the district is to look at a budget that may be at the cap, at that 5.52%. Now, that is the property tax cap. I know many of you may think that, hey, the property tax cap is 2%, but we all know that if you go back to some of the other presentations, there's a very in-depth calculation that we go through to get to the cap. There's a significant amount of pluses and minuses, debt service, state aid, pilot payments, et cetera, et cetera. So our calculated cap, which has been verified by the controller's office, is 5.52%. And that requires a 50% majority vote by the community. It does not require the district to pierce the cap. So the first thing that we're going to start out with, we're going to present this in the way the budget is normally presented to the community, the administrative program and capital portions. Okay, now before the first section that we're going to get to is the administrative portion, and I would just like to recognize that this is the component of the budget that represents the infrastructure that's necessary to ensure that the district remains financially accountable, legally compliant, and operationally functional. Following these reductions, the district believes that the administrative component reflects a lean and responsible level of spending necessary to support the educational programs and overall operations at South Country. So with that, you can see that we are suggesting to get to that level at the cap, that we reduce the administrative budget by $616,000. That includes a reduction in the area of security, $530,000. That includes the elimination of conference and travel of over $25,000, postage $10,000, and reduction of clerical substitutes of $35,000, and a reduction of clerical overtime of $15,000. Now we know, and let me state right up front, none of these decisions are easy. And I also want people to understand that when the community passes a budget, they're passing a plan. These type of things, as the budget goes, as the district goes through the budget year, these things are not necessarily written in concrete. The district has the flexibility to prioritize and change what's necessary and things that happen on an emergency basis and otherwise. Perfect example. We may have a boiler that fails. We're undergoing that situation right now. Unfortunately, that's not in the budget, but we still have to address it. As long as we have an approved spending plan from the community and we stay within that approved appropriation, we have the option to address the priorities of the district. And I think that's a very, very important distinction as we talk about these cuts and reductions, because they are significant. That was my grandson. Today's his 5th birthday. So anyway, so moving to the program budget, I think that we're going to see 4 slides on program changes. So I think this statement really hits home. I know it hits home for me, and I know it hits home to my colleagues, that we are the ones that have to put this together. So the program component represents a very significant and difficult decisions that would materially impact instructional opportunities and the overall student experience here at South Country. That's obvious. We're stating that up front. The cumulative effect of reduced staffing, elimination of co-curricular activities, reduction in technology replacement, decreased transportation access, scaled back athletics and student support opportunities extend beyond a single fiscal year. We talked about in the past, when you're making these kind of reductions, it's a multi-year recovery plan. That's not subjective, that's not false, that's fact. When you're dealing with the things that we are dealing with now, it will be a multi-year recovery plan. So such reductions will have lasting implications on student engagement, academic programming, extracurricular participation, and the district's ability to fully support student growth and achievement. But that's only to say where we are now. That doesn't mean that we don't have an opportunity to rebuild over the years and put these things back in place where needed and necessary. So again, I thank you for your patience, but these type of pieces are going to be very back. So we're going to begin that and I see a typo up there already. The program section is $4.7 million that we're going to be recommending reductions. It's a total reduction of 34 FTE positions, not 23. So, and we're going to go through them as we go through the presentation. Okay. The first item that we talked about previously is the $900,000 that was voted by the community on May 19th. The next item is we're looking at eliminating late buses once again. So we will not have late buses next year. We had originally reduced the 2:30 buses, then we had made a recommendation for these late buses, and then we had added them back in. And at this particular point, we are making a recommendation to take them back out. On the co-curricular level, we are recommending eliminating all, including the district-wide intramurals, leaving the play productions in place. As far as additional administrative positions, the depth and the breadth of what we talked about previously. We're also recommending the 2 additional director positions, director of guidance, director of technology. And administratively, we do have a concern how the work is going to get done. But nonetheless, we will have to plan together, we will have to get it done. In the area of athletics, we're recommending the removal of JV sports, the reduction of athletic transportation, reduction in uniforms, and decrease in chaperones. Just bear with me 1 minute, I gotta get this one. Probably wants me to. Yeah, he wants me to probably sing happy birthday. So, thank you. Moving along, okay, then we get to music. And in the area of art and music, we're recommending a reduction of 4 FTEs. We're recommending at the middle school and the high school a recombining and reconfiguration. We do have state minimums to consider in these particular areas for art and music. And again, with those 4 FTE, I just want to mention that as painful as that is, one of those positions is retiring, and 2 of those positions are individuals that have resigned. So where we can take advantage of attrition, where it hasn't directly affected a person, we were very cognizant to do that from a humanistic approach. Art, we have the same thing, the elimination of 3 FTEs and some art electives at the high school. Family and consumer science, we're recommending the elimination of that. Math interventionists, K-5, this is elementary school, we're recommending the elimination of 4. That still leaves 2 within the district. Now, we mentioned earlier about contingency, okay? And you'll see that with contingency and some of the statements that were made earlier, how difficult it is to get to contingency because it's another $4 million on top of what we are already talking about. So under a contingent budget, a lot of these things that we're talking about, the music, art, and the math interventionists and things, they will just actually be eliminated. And we won't have those as part of the program. At the secondary level, again, English, increase class size at the middle school, and again, look at electives and remove electives. Math and business, look at classes, combine some classes and increase class size, and reduce the business electives at the high school. None of this is fun, and it is certainly painful. But nonetheless, we go back that the community spoke loud and clear. And I guess piercing the cap is not an option. So continuing with science, the elimination of AP Chem, AP Physics, AP Environmental, and world language, elimination of college Spanish, French, and Italian, and increasing class size. And eliminate discovering world language at the middle school, grade 6. I'm not certain why I always get to deliver good news. So with that, continuing. As I said, this is slide 404 for a program. So now we move to technology. We move electives at the high school. Again, considering the minimums. Elementary counselors, removing 2 elementary counselors, really going back down to the state minimums. In library, the reduction of the elementary library position that we had restored previously in the budget process. Special education, we do have one individual that had resigned, and we will not be replacing that position. And then on the general ed side, not special ed, for teaching assistants, we are recommending reducing 10 teaching assistants. And we still would have 10 in place for the general ed program. So that basically wraps up the program side of things. And then when we get to the final component, the capital budget, this is another area that, well, the capital spending shifts from improvements to prevention to essential operations, and emergency response only. The district's ability to proactively maintain facilities, replace aging infrastructure, and invest in long-term sustainability becomes significantly constrained. So what we are looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is we're looking at reductions across the board. We're looking at reductions in administration, we're looking at reductions in program, and we're looking at reduction in capital. The reductions of this magnitude should not be underestimated. Deferring capital improvements, equipment replacement, technology investments, and preventive maintenance, it provides us immediate fiscal relief. It's very important for the community to understand that. It's a one-shot deal. However, such reductions like this will create long-term operational pressures and increase future costs as the infrastructure, equipment, and systems continue to age. Throughout my whole career, I've always prided myself on the buildings and grounds component of the district being the educational foundation, if you will, for our programs. Without health and safety facilities, we have nothing. Because you cannot teach students productively in a failing classroom environment. When your infrastructure is not where it should be. And again, that's just, where we are. These cuts that we're making, you can see it's 270,000. They're not totally major, but it does require us to tighten our belts significantly and really choose our district-wide maintenance and improvements and only prioritize those things that are broken and fix it. And the same thing with our repairs and maintenance and improvements. We're going to be very selective with that and our repairs as well. Custodial overtime, we're reducing $100,000. It's only going to be on a priority basis. These are the things that you do when you have to reduce costs and tighten your belt. It's going to be, the 26-27 budget is going to be a very lean budget that the district is going to have to work very closely with administration and the board to make sure that we address all of the district's priorities. So having said all that, you can see that the bottom line is we are going from the original budget that was defeated, which was $150 million, to a revised budget after taking into consideration the $900,000, down to a budget of $144.8. $2.3 million less in spending than the current year at this point in time. And that represents a reduction in spending of 1.57%. One of the significant things that jumps out for me as your Assistant Secretary for Finance is that when we look at 25-26 and we see a budget of 147, and we're comparing it to where we are now at a 2.3 spending decrease, we all know how we got here. At 24-25 and 25-26, we had spending deficits. Our projected spending deficit in 25-26 was $8.7 billion. That was part of the reason for the special act legislation. So when we compare these numbers, we're required to show budget to budget, But when you look at that 25, 26 number of 147, we know that that number has been underestimated. And that number in reality is much higher. So we are at a point fiscally where we have made a considerable amount of reduction just to get to this point. So now we know what the numbers are. And I know that everybody just wants to know, what is this going to cost me? So we put up here that this budget that's presented at the cap that reduces $5.6 million in further expenses, requires a 50% majority vote, carries an approximate $222 a year increase, $18.50 a month. Now, recognizing some of the comments from the community previously about different homeowners with different assessed values, provided that chart on the side that basically increases and decreases in $500 increments. So you can see where you may fall in this and what we're talking about. But suffice to say that for the average person with this budget, we're talking about a monthly increase of anywhere from $11 up to $25 a month. And again, I would caution the community, when you're trying to figure this out for yourselves, you can do one of two things. You can call my office for a copy of your tax bill, or you can go to your tax bill and look at your school tax levy line. Not your total budget, not your total taxes, but only your school taxes. There's a lot of stuff that's in your tax bill that is above and beyond school taxes. Yes, the school taxes make up the largest share. We recognize that. We know that. Okay? When you look at your assessed value for your school district, you should be able to go to this chart and figure out where you would fit in on this matrix. So, challenges ahead, community recovery. So we know that while financial reductions can occur within a single budget cycle, rebuilding the programs, capital investment, and student opportunities requires years of sustained recovery and investment. We are making a correction in our costs, and we are resolving a 3-year problem that did not start yesterday. It started many years ago. We all identified what the problems were, and the problems are being addressed. I take you back to my beginning presentation. Please don't forget about the fiscal oversight. That, to me, was the one legacy, if you will, that I wanted to leave this community. That there will be fiscal oversight. That everything that we have done is not in vain. And there's going to be oversight from plenty of state agencies on a quarterly basis for the next 30 years. So with that, rebuilding the reductions, as we said, is a multi-year process. This is not the end of the line. This doesn't mean that our kids lose everything forever. It's a new beginning. Let's look at it that way. We fixed the problems. We're paving the road. Now it's time to rebuild. Restoration of the staffing, instructional opportunities, technology, extracurricular programs, and capital investments require sustained financial stability and strategic reinvestment and continued community support. Those of you that have been following these presentations, this I believe is number 10. There's 9 of them on the website. It takes us through a whole blueprint of where we started in this budget process and where we are now. So there's 10 presentations. And with that, it's once these reductions are implemented, rebuilding the capacity, both operational and educationally, it will take some time in terms of planning. But accordingly, we want the community to know that every effort has been made to thoughtfully balance the fiscal responsibility while maintaining and minimizing the disruption to our students and preserving the instructional mission for the district. And we say this because you just saw what we get for a $5.6 million reduction. And we're not happy about that. Now, I can't even imagine having to take down another $4 million in this budget. It would be devastating. We would not have a program left. I said this at one of the other meetings, and I did this. There's the only place to go is everything else would be wiped out. The students would come to school, they would get on the bus, go back home. $4 million. We just took out $5,670,000. So with that, I want to take a pause. There's a lot of information. We shared the facts. Now we want to hear from the community. We're trying something new. I don't know if it's going to work or not. There is a QR code up there. We put on a little Google survey. And those of you that are here, you can access that with the QR code and you can respond. It's basically 3 questions that ask about where we are now and what we presented this evening with a budget at the cap. Takes us one step further and asks whether the community will support a contingent budget and a reduction of another $4 million. And then it asks for some priorities that the district would love to have your feedback. So with that, not only is it on the QR code, but those people that are watching from YouTube, there will be a link on the bottom. We also have a link on the district's website, as well as Facebook. So we're giving you a lot of options for feedback. We anticipate having this up for about 24 hours to get the immediate feedback. We're on a very constrained timeline, and the Board of Education has to make some critical decisions whether the district is going to put up another budget June 16th, or whether we're going to go on contingency. So with that, I think that the community input is critical as we go forward. And then this is probably the best opportunity to begin to hear from the community and their thoughts as to what was just presented. So with that, okay. So I got the thumbs up that the link should be up on the QR code. So again, these are our options, ladies and gentlemen. And they're not easy options, but they're real. And this is where we are this evening. So, to say is, at this point, I would open it up to the community then.
Could I just ask you to clarify or repeat that what needs to be done tonight is for the board to determine a number for a budget? And you could outline a little bit about why that has to be done tonight.
Okay. Sure. We are hoping tonight that we walk away with some direction, because we have a very short window to meet the guidelines of the state in presenting another budget to the community. If the board decides to adopt a budget at the cap, we have to have a resolution that the board approves, allowing us to do that. We have a legal requirement where it has to be legally advertised. And when you look at a budget of June 16th and back up those dates, we would have to have a budget document completed by next Tuesday. The distribution to the community with an updated school budget notice. The following Tuesday, June 9th, we would be presenting a budget hearing to the community, basically talking about what we talked about tonight, and if that budget failed, what a contingency budget would look like. So that's the priority for where we are now. If the board was deciding we wanted to go right to contingency, it does not require the board to take any action. They could effectively adopt a contingent budget this evening. But we're choosing and hoping that we don't get and go in that direction. So with that, again, remember that based on the law, we get 2 bites of the apple. The first bite was on July 19th. May 19th. I guess I'm just thinking ahead. Oh, wait a minute, that's Disney World. So it was May 19th, that was the first bite of the apple. The second bite of the apple would be on June 16th. After that, you have no more bites of the apple. You go on contingency, there's no exemptions, there's no deductions, you go right back to the current year tax levy. Okay? And that, think about what we talked about earlier, that tax levy being underestimated for the previous 2 years, and part of the fiscal situation that we have resolved as we go forward. So, does that answer your question?
So, from our perspective, it's a 2-step process. Tonight, we determine the number, and we're also going to hear from the community about priorities. And then there will be an opportunity for the board to have discussions about the priorities available within the numbers that you've set out for us.
That is correct. I would just like to emphasize again, if the community decides that they're voting on a budget that brings us to the cap, we'll be voting on a budget on June 16th, that's $144.8 million. Okay? That's the spending plan. Keep in mind that nothing in that budget is written in concrete. We deal with contingencies, we deal with emergencies. We prioritize during the year. Some things may have to go, some things could be adjusted. Again, your budget is a plan. It needs to be a living, breathing document. And that's how school districts function.
The next segment will be the public participation. And while we're setting that up, I just wanted to confer with our interim superintendent. You're prepared to make a recommendation tonight with regard to the budget number?
Yes.
In that case, I'm going to need our clerk to amend the agenda to include the resolution that we will take up after we hear from the public. We're going to do the communication now. Having communication first, yes, and then we'll take the vote. I just need her to have a minute to be able to amend the agenda, because she's then gonna be calling up people who have the cards. So, did you want to speak before the public, or we could start calling them up now?
I have the questions that were emailed, and we can address them in a lump at the end with a brief summary. So.
All right. For those who want to speak tonight, please be sure you filled out a yellow card that's available through our clerk and return them to her. Now, do you want me to call out the yellow cards, or are you going to be able to do that? going to call 4 names and ask if you could come sit up front, and then we'll take you in order. We have Jeanette Fabrizio, Kareem Otakon, Shannon Marshall, Carrie Garfin, our first speaker, Jeanette Fabrizio.
Can you hear me now? My name is Jeanette Fabrizio. I am a community member. I have 3 boys. 2 of them are currently in school. 1 of them has graduated. I'm here today to talk to you about 2 to 3 things. The first thing is, aside from being a community member, I'm also a school lunch director in another district. And I have seen on these slides that we have a budgetary line for our C fund, which is the school lunch fund, or the cafeteria fund, for $25,000. So as a self-operational school lunch director, I actually make a profit for the district under the C fund. We, I know, have been under a food service management company for quite a while now, and I was just hoping that you would maybe take this note and think about looking into becoming self-operational for the school lunch fund. Currently, I am making north of $700,000 in my fund, which would help the district out. I understand that most of the community members don't understand the C fund, but I hope that you would become educated on it as a Board of Ed member, and that some of that C fund money can definitely offset some of the general fund money. For example, things such as waste management. The cafeteria has a lot of waste. Therefore, you could potentially charge the C fund for the waste management percentage that the cafeteria uses. Same thing with electric. It can get very creative. So that is something that could potentially bring in some revenue to the district creatively. It also can take the burden off of potentially doing upgrades to the kitchens that now the general fund does not have to bear, because the C fund could bear that burden of upgrading throughout the years and the time of the facilities within the school lunch part of the district. My second thing that I would like to say is that I do want to try my best to make sure that I'm trying to convey a depiction that would be good for the whole community, but I really do want the board to continue to focus on making sure that these high school students have their CTE portions and keep them career and college ready. So the best that you can do to preserve these programs, such as AP classes, CTE courses that are in here, please consider to do that. Thank you.
To our first speaker, and not to interrupt, I'm going to do it before you speak. I neglected to point out that each speaker has up to 3 minutes. Most of the names I recognize and they're well aware of it, but just for the record, 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
My name's Karim. I'm a dad of 2 kids in the district. The budget newsletter is the primary means to communicate with voters. 4,000 people are not at these Board of Education meetings or watching them online. The budget newsletter that was sent out prior to the last election did not even mention the deficit in dollar terms. It did not discuss how the district cut 18% of teaching positions in 12 months. It did not detail program changes, like elimination of 6th grade dual language program. No matter what you guys say, it doesn't exist. The proposed cuts to AP that were already in place under the last budget. This is, to me, like, how do you expect? You said you've heard the community loud and clear. How do you expect the community to know what's at stake when you don't tell them what's at stake? You know, we had one slide that said, you know, if a contingency happens, all of this will be cut and more, okay? That's not how to say what's at stake to voters. This stuff that was presented today is the difference between last budget and the contingency budget should have been crystal clear to voters before they went to vote in the budget review. On top of that, you know, the difference between this and a contingency budget should be crystal clear to voters who are going to vote on June 19th. Not because there's a slide here, because you mailed it to them and you said we're cutting JV, we're cutting AP, we're cutting this and that. Because yes, these things matter, and I don't think that there are 4,000 people who don't care about our children's education in this community. I think that they need to know what's at stake, and there needs to be still accountability to the board that put us in this position. You know, this board didn't give voters an informed choice. I spoke to parents who voted for this proposition that you guys put on the ballot with very, begging you guys to be clear about this. But they didn't realize that they cut taxes $900,000 to save $400,000 in net busing expenses. You know, that there's a loss to our district. The outcome of the last election is that we have less money going into this. It wasn't a zero, it was a negative. And that's so irresponsible of this board. So to think that, we have clarified things, because you heard us loud and clear, I don't think so. We're still not outlining everything at stake. I think we have to, if we don't do this, the fact that all of this is being discussed after the last vote is really terrifying. And you have one chance to do it again, to make it crystal clear to people what's at stake, and I just beg you to do it.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Shanna Marshall.
Hello. Nervous to speak, but I think it's important to speak. I have 4 daughters, 7 and under, but what I'm about to say really pertains to the older kids, especially the JV athletics department here. I grew up on Long Island in a neighboring school. Bellport always had the best football team. We were always scared to compete against them in sports. How will that, I just don't see how that's going to be productive for our students. I think it was $160K. That's what you're saving to cut JV sports? These students have worked so hard. My daughters are playing the Bellport Youth Lacrosse League that I think Chris Ross helped put together. It's a wonderful league. They started at age 4. So these kids have been playing their whole lives. Now they're going into high school and they're not going to be able to play lacrosse. They're not going to be able to play football. I don't care if it's a year. That's a shame. That's embarrassing. And a year is a lot for these kids that want to go to college. It's not my kids because they're little, and I hope this all gets figured out by then, but I'm going to speak up for the kids that are vulnerable and need this, who have worked hard, and they cannot get this cut. They cannot afford it. The other thing I want to address is that in my school, when there was low AP enrollment, they integrated that AP course into a regular course. So let's say there was low AP French, right? Then they put AP French into regular French. It's not ideal for the teachers, but the student gets to put it on their college application. What I'm seeing is elimination of things instead of discussions of how can we work with it. Can we cut the season a little bit? Can we look at further transportation costs for the athletics and just offer the sport so they can put it on their college application? Can we offer the AP Sciences? Let's put the AP Physics in with the regular physics. These are just some ideas that I have. I hope we can come to a resolution. I just want to speak up for the kids that they can't afford 1 year. They can't. They want to go to college. It's very competitive to go to college. If they're going SUNY, it's not easy to get in anymore. We need to support these kids.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Carrie Garfin.
Hi, my name is Carrie Garfin. I'm a mother of a current 10th grader and a current 8th grader. I'm also an educator at William Floyd for 22 years. I don't get up here and speak, but I feel I need to on their behalf because I'm their advocate. Mr. Belmonte, I say this with respect. But time to rebuild is not what my kids have right now. My son is going into 11th grade. My son has been on your website multiple times. He's your publicity. He's one of those kids. He's an overachiever. So to take away AP, you're taking away his opportunity. You were told you have 11 emails. I'm one of those emails. So in my heart, I feel that the 11 people that took their time to reach out to you, I don't feel hurt at all when I'm looking at that screen. I have a child that wants to be a biochemical engineer and the grades to do it, and you are going to limit his opportunities. And it's heartbreaking for these kids at this point. They are the only good publicity we've had in the newspaper. I don't know if anybody noticed that article or where it's from. Sometimes has not been they make people cry. And to take away those opportunities from those children it's criminal at this point. You need to relook at that and figure it out. You need to do, like what the last speaker said, you need to find solutions, not just cut things. Because you're hurting kids, you're hurting their future. That's what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments also. The next group of speakers, I have Barbara Schatzman, Corey Yablon, Buddy Lorenzen, Christina, no last name, Michael Marziliana. If y'all could just come up and we'll start with Barbara Schatzman.
Hi, I'm Barbara Schatzman. I was a teacher at Brookhaven Elementary School for over 20 years, and I was on the school board for 9 years. I have 2 children that went through this district from kindergarten through grade 12. I'm going to be on the same track as some of the previous speakers, but before that I remembered something. Somebody mentioned online about a letter that went out that said to the South Country community. I never received it. If I didn't happen to go online, I never would have gotten it. I've spoken to other retired teachers and other retirees. They're not included in this. It was a bugaboo of mine when I was on the board that not everybody has access to a computer. Not everybody has access to a smartphone. So I think something has to be done about that. So when it says South Country community, you mean the whole community. The other thing that I wanted to mention is what 2 previous speakers said. I've spoken at a lot of board meetings, and I'm usually not shaking. I am shaking now because I am so upset about the cuts to the electives and the AP classes. I want to know who in the district is going to be responsible to write to the colleges to explain why the applicants from this district have no electives and no AP classes. My children took both. The first thing they asked on the application was, put down all your extracurricular, put down your AP classes, put down your electives. Well, what are they going to put down? They're going to say, I'm sorry, I couldn't take it? I think as a district, if you're going to do that, you are ruining the chances of children who want to get into certain schools. And that's not fair to anybody at all. And if you're planning on doing that, I want to see what is going to come out from the district to go to different schools with the applications of these students. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Corey Yablon.
Good evening. My heart hurts tonight for all of us and for all of you. You are community members and you are our friends. And Some of you have just been elected to a very tough coming time. I thank you for your efforts. This is really hard, and I know that you're not facing easy decisions. Sorry, I'm a little verklempt. I'm asking specifically, I'd like to focus on how the administrating is going to be done to make sure that we are in compliance. Though I'm the mom of a 7th grade varsity wrestler, and I hope that that program comes back and considers for my own selfish reasons that my daughter goes to state soon and can prove herself, my bigger priority is the children who are losing some opportunities. And my priority is the loss of languages. We are in an international time. I don't know how many languages are spoken in the students and the body of this community, but I know that there are 156 languages spoken among my students in the school where I am. Losing languages here and that universality and skill, losing a technology director and a guidance director are going to harm us in ways we don't even know. We need the expertise to right the ship. And we need a director of ELL. I understand that the person's already cut. We need somebody to keep us compliant so that we aren't violating laws and bringing on lawsuits and litigiousness next year and in the years to come that we cannot even foresee at this time. Lastly, I spoke to, reached out by email to the athletic director and facilities maintenance when I was at my daughter's track meet last week. And I was looking around and the broken sprinkler covers have massive holes, as if I understand it, heavy equipment goes over them. And there are lawsuits waiting to happen from just teeny tiny things. Over time, there will be a deterioration that we cannot keep up with. So I know that you have a time constraint tonight. I know that you can't necessarily rip apart all of the recommendations that are handed to you, and you all have just been given these choices in the last couple of days, and this is difficult. If we are able to reevaluate, if anything is able to become out of the air, I'm sorry that I missed your opening statements about how the New York newest budget may be affecting us other than our budget vote. And most of all, I'm very sorry that the community voted down the budget last week.
Thank you also for your comments. And then Buddy Lorenzen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Buddy Lawrenson. I have a son going into elementary school next year. I'd like to focus on several concerns regarding the school budget and the one that did not pass. First, the treasurer's salary increase of over 18% is extremely concerning, especially in a budget crisis. That level of increase is far beyond what normal taxpayers would consider reasonable or standard. I would also like to know whether this increase has been benchmarked against comparable districts with similar size and demographics, and if that data can be available to the public for transparency. Second, the superintendent stated that everyone will need to make sacrifices. If that is the expectation, then leadership should also reflect that. In that spirit, I believe the district should reconsider the $6,000 car allowance. That is especially important given the transportation services have already been reduced following the recent Proposition 2, and additional cuts may come under a contingency budget. Beyond those 2 points, I also have concerns about significant increases in vendor and contract costs, including some exceeding 100%. These are not typical inflationary adjustments. I would ask whether the district is consistently using competitive bidding, multiple quotes, and contract negotiations to ensure the taxpayers are getting the best possible value for their dollar. Similarly, legal expenses are increasing by nearly 20%. I would like some clarification on whether that's a standard increase and whether alternative legal providers or cost-saving options have been explored. I have also noticed that there's large increases in overtime across several departments. I would ask what's driving those increases. Are we talking about staffing reductions, operational needs specific to this year, or a longer-term structural change? On the positive side, mailing costs I see have decreased on the original proposed budget by 14%, which is a good step. However, I would encourage the district to explore even greater savings by expanding digital and paperless communication, as many neighboring districts have already done so. I would also ask for improved budget transparency in the budget documents. Many line items, acronyms, and descriptions are difficult for the average taxpayer to understand. A plain language summary alongside the formal budget would greatly improve public understanding and trust. Additionally, for major increases and cutting more programs for students, I would ask whether these costs are one-time expenses or they represent permanent structural costs that will continue into future budgets. Finally, closing, I understand that a budget increase may ultimately be necessary, and that is not the central issue I'm raising tonight. The issue is ensuring transparency, accountability, competitive procurement, and a clear justification for significant cost increases before asking taxpayers for even more. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have Christina. Okay. Michael Marciano.
My name is Michael Marzliano, Belport High School class of 2021. I'm here to defend music, art, and theater programs. I would like to tell you about my experience as a student in this high school. I had no direction as a young person in this community, and I found it thanks to many music and art teachers in this district, one of whom is in this room, Mr. Henry Finnegan. He helped me practice for NISMA. He rehearsed with me when I struggled through demanding musical productions so that I could represent my growth and the programs of this district to the best of my ability. Mr. Finnegan helped me come to the realization that I could be a musician professionally, and I am forever grateful for the contributions that the music, art, and theater programs have had on my life and forever. The arts are not to be looked away from. They are critical elements of our culture and how we interact with each other. I beg of you to give attention to the arts so that other students in the future can find their own path and be as successful as they can and everything that they dream of every day. Thank you.
I have two more speakers, Sonia Anderson and Willie White.
Hi, my name is Sonia Anderson. I know quite a few people here. I've been an educator for 21 years. I actually teach AP science classes, and I recognize the importance of and the value that those offer our students. So I'm advocating tonight to not hurt the kids that have the least amount of time left in our district. The 12th graders hurt the most and impacted the most with these cuts. And no one wins in this. There are no winners, everybody is losing in this. But to have the impacts at such a high, at the top level for these kids, they just won't have the time to recover. And I have an 11th grader and I also have an 8th grader. So I'm at that back end, and they've had amazing experiences all throughout, and the teachers are amazing. But what we're sending our kids out to, they're not going to compete the same as the kids in the other districts that they're applying against. They will not. You know, my son has taken AP courses starting in 9th and 10th grade, and now to go backwards and to have to take Regents level or on-level courses is not fair. It's not instructionally sound for many of the students we have here. Extracurriculars, sports, to not offer those opportunities really is going to take away from our students that will not have time to get that back. It's devastating. As a parent, I'm disgusted, I'm frustrated, and we cannot put this on the students. There have to be other places to find cuts to give them the opportunities that they deserve. They really do. So I just wanted to advocate for those kids more than so, because they just don't have the time that they need them to have.
I have Mr. White, and after Mr. White, Nancy Poulos.
South Country School District. My name is Willie White, and I'm from the district. A lot of faces in this room. So some of the board members up there, said, well, Jeannie, I work with him, but all I hear is money, but the kids, it's the kids. It was kids like me who came to schools for sports. Even though I had 16 brothers, but it was nothing like coming to school, coming here. I achieved something here. We won a championship here, right? And that was in 1983, 83. But I love Gulfport High School. And if you take sports from them, it starts with JV. But it really starts out here at Martha's, where you got Mr. Swicky and everybody out there, kids this high, playing football. Some of the kids come to school just to play sports, like myself, just to see their friends, so they can be part of. For you to take that away from them, it's not gonna end well. Because now you got kids out in the streets. You got kids out there doing things that they should be doing. Some of the academics being taken away from them also. Kids that want to apply to college and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was in the military, so I didn't care about the school thing. There's kids who do. You know what I mean? But I think if you take away the sports from them, I can guarantee it's going to be, Gulfport is not going to be the same Gulfport High School. And they play here, we play here. And I always say to these guys all the time, Gulfport football is like the mafia. Once you're in, you can't get out. 40-something years, I still come here, I still go on the field. Because nobody does put me off the field. Referees, I stand back there. But nobody else, because I blood, sweat, tears, everything. And they love these guys. I don't know too many of you guys up there, but I hope you do the right thing. Please. And truth doesn't need defending.
Thank you for coming and speaking to us tonight, Mr. White. Nancy Poulos.
Hi. I just wanted to ask the board a couple of things. We went from, the community spoke, but we went from 13% tax increase to 5% to not pierce the cap. And is this what you think the community really wanted, is to just go down to, I mean, that, you know, to the 5%? Couldn't there be something in between to be considered? Has the board considered another transportation proposition for the students that could maybe keep some programs here, but just like we did for the parochial schools? It doesn't have to be permanent, but you can put it down to the limits that, you know, the state, bare minimum for the state. And another thing is, did we look into raises across the board, 0% raises? When we look at the budget, and they say it's not true, like the treasurer, she didn't get a raise, whatever, okay. But it doesn't show that in the budget. And I know that we have union contracts up this year. We have 3 of them, as a matter of fact, as the board considering, I know you can't discuss it, but to give everyone in the district, not just unions, every person from confidential on, 0% raises to help offset some of these programs, cuts.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other speakers? Did you just say you got some questions sent to you, like text or
Yes.
something?
I have some text that, I don't know if they're here or they were watching. But if I could have these questions. answered. Okay. Are all AP classes being eliminated, and is dual language being eliminated? That was a question that I'm not completely sure. Could that question be answered, please? No? So no to what? So not all AP classes are being eliminated? Okay, so it's just being suggested that some?
Yes.
And no dual language hasn't been suggested to be eliminated? Dual language is staying. Okay, so if that person is here, or if they're out there, that's the answer to those questions. And I just want to reiterate that the number is being proposed at the 5.5% tonight, and then the suggestions that Mr. Belmonte put together tonight is flexible, as I understand it. Where is Mr. Belmonte? There he is in the end. Is still flexible at this point?
Yes, as I indicated, the budget is a plan. So you have flexibility as you prioritize and as we go through the school year.
Okay. So to the point that Nancy, I don't have to say Mrs. Poulos, right? I can say Nancy Poulos. I know we're formal here tonight, but I want to give the respect to the speakers, certainly. But that was one of the reasons that we had the community to come in to see if there's a tolerance. 71% voting no against the budget is a big number. And certainly the board, that resonated with the board and with administration. That's a hard number to turn around to pierce the cap again, because everybody understands to pierce the cap again, it requires the same 60% to vote in favor. And so, is there going to be a tolerance if we were to find to strike a balance in between 5.52% and, I wouldn't even say that number again.
Please don't.
Okay. Is there a number that the community would support to get us to those programs that are near and dear to the hearts? And all those programs are near and dear. And, or is the no vote so strong that we can only consider the cap? That's where this trustee is at this point. Okay, that's what I'd like the community to understand. For me, that's where I am right now. Is the community so hard and fast at no, do not pierce that cap, be at the cap, or is there room to go somewhere in between? And if there is room for that, where? Okay? That's where we are right now. Otherwise, there's a resolution pending right now to go to the cap. And the cap is what was demonstrated to you tonight.
Thank you very much. Well said. Thank you very much. Very nice to all the speakers from up here. Here's where we're at, folks. And thank you to everyone who showed up tonight. Thank you for everybody who's watching. I do want to apologize up front. I know it's hard to see the screen back home. The split screen thing wasn't working, but please go online. All of the budget presentations are there. Show's got one more question.
One more question was just texted in. Okay, can we please speak to the piece that 4th grade math AIS teachers being removed and how that would impact the elementary school teacher track? Can someone speak to that? Because I certainly can't. There's more to the question, but I just wanted to get somebody up.
I think, in fairness, I'm going to take that one.
Okay.
Because I have a list here. It's a very interesting list. And I think every constituent group in the district has had a chance for someone to come to this microphone, which is very impressive. People came up in an orderly fashion. They spoke factually and from their hearts. And one of the things we spoke about at the last meeting is, especially when times are tough, this is how it needs to be done. People need to come and speak. And moving forward, I mean, Mr. Belmonte outlined how we have codified and we have a backbone for the internal mechanism to make sure this never happens again. By law now, we're going to have to report to the state, and there's going to be quarterly reporting for the next 30 years. Lord knows. I hope I'm here for the last report, but we still count on it. We are in the process of trying to pull this community together. We're still hitting some bumps. The problem in the room that's not being addressed is this is a bigger issue. You really don't want to hear this right now, so I'm going to make myself available. I have a meeting scheduled with a group of parents tomorrow night. Call my office if you want to come in as an individual or a group. I will sit with you and we can grind into whatever you want to talk about. But across the island, declining enrollment meets fiscal stress. Now, this problem didn't start last week, it didn't start last year, but if you go back and look at school report cards and look at your number of students and number of employees and the amount of money we receive, corrective action should have begun 10 to 12 years ago. And you folks have been great. I've been here for about 168 hours and you've been very kind to me. But you already have a Board of Education that is focused on fixing this problem. You've got an administrative, the administrative team at the central office focused on fixing this problem. I think we're on the way to the first steps to fixing the problem. The questions that I received, just so we make sure we do them justice, 8 of the emails simply said, is there something other than contingency? That tells me tonight, we planned over the weekend, we didn't see these questions until we came in this morning, we're on the right track. Some of the questions, and again, we're not here to necessarily answer questions in detail tonight because we've shown you what must happen, but you've also weighed in. We have someone who is asking in the 1st and 2nd grade, and my response to that is we're going to try to limit the impact, especially on once-in-a-lifetime events, which means working from seniors back. We've heard a common theme here about seniors and academics that we now have to go back in and have some more conversation about. Somebody wants to survey the parents. We're already surveying the parents, but if you do your own survey, more than likely you're going to get, it could be a, you could do a perfect survey and people might say, why are you doing a survey and not this one? We're doing a survey, we're going to look at these results over the next 48 hours. Just 1 second, because people want to start talking about the Princeton plan and reconfiguration. Be happy to do that in the summer. We're going to look at a lot of things this summer, but that could get that can tear a community apart into itself, and we're trying to get everybody together so we can have tough conversations. Buses and residency, one of the things the state has done, we don't have enough time to redo the bus thing again, because the state doesn't want us holding you hostage. To do a bus referendum takes a long time, and you want to make sure it's out there. This is a very condensed, we have a month. We don't have enough time to give the proper notice, and I think, the state gets it right sometimes, we don't give them credit, but we should not be able to hold you hostage with buses on short notice, and although, it would save money. Encouraging parents to vote by a parent square and stuff like that, really want to stay away from that. I don't want to talk about the legalities, but we want everybody to vote again. We want to put something up that people can work together with. But we don't want to give the appearance, especially to people who are such a resounding no. You talk to your friends. If you want the budget, you talk to them. If you don't want the budget, talk to them. That's how this works. Title I funds, I'm absolutely looking at. So everything you have mentioned, strongly encourage, and this came up a couple times in conversation about class size, and they can't accept anything more than 25, but they're not looking to do 25 in the elementary schools. Okay? But again,
Already there.
I said,
In elementary. In elementary, while it's 15.
well, please, I don't want to,
No, this is
we're
fine.
looking, hold a second, we're looking towards next year. We're well aware. And if there is an anomaly based on population and where people live, we'll explain it. Okay? But we are looking, when you look at what we put up on the board, we spread the pain around. The problem is we spread the pain around. And as what the things that I wrote, the problem didn't start today, it started years ago. We're looking to preserve, especially the once-in-a-lifetime events. Again, I want to reiterate, because we can't say this enough. This is a spending plan that can be, just like the Constitution can be amended, it can be adjusted, but you have to go through the transfer process so that there is a record of what you're doing. And that helps with the transparency. We have codified the oversight for the next 30 years. Now we have to ingrain it as a habit. It should have been a habit before. We're going to work to ingrain that. Now, I am going to say this, we are now charged with having the courage and daring to rebuild and possibly find new pathways. Now, this is painful, it is not easy, but the world is changing. Kids today are going to be working till the year 2080, 2090, possibly the year 2100. So we have to now, board, we're going to have some very, very tough discussions. We have heard you. People got up and spoke. They wanted to say this, they want to say this, they want to say this, they want to say this. It's time now for us to put together the final plan. The concern is, listening and hearing and watching that vote, if we try to pierce the cap, and we don't make it, I don't know where you find another $4 million. I just do not. But I feel confident that if we adopt the number we're looking to adopt, it'll give us a strong foothold to begin the climb. Asking for 13% was a tremendous ask. And I'm not so sure if that had passed, there would be people that would tell us business as usual is okay. If we pass it at the cap, we all know that business as usual is no more. And we must have a vision for the future and pay attention to every penny moving forward. Because the entire island is facing declining enrollment, families are getting smaller. It's not that people are disappearing, but families are getting smaller, and money is getting tighter. So now it's time. I have been extremely impressed with how civil, how polite, and how genuinely kind and caring tonight has been, and I've only been here since last week. But the people who want to help. Now it's time. We have to make a decision, because once we make this decision, we can begin to move forward together. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's going to be easy. But I will tell you this, when we get this done, it's going to be satisfying. So, are we ready, Madam President? Oh, it's okay.
I have one more question, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. More questions. AP capstone programs. put that on your list of items to consider? Yeah, AP capstone, English and science, all right? Also, before I leave this board, and also considering other items that were raised tonight about communication, every year, every board runs into the criticism, and rightly so, we need to improve communications. And every year we try to improve communications, and every year it seems we get critiques again. So with this particular budget, we need to improve communication. And I also think that contributed to the 71% loss in the budget. So we must do that. And the other thing too, before I leave this board, I want to do something to contribute to restoring trust between the board and the community. And so that will help with two things that I had asked for the board that we didn't get. And in going forward with the number, with the overall budget number, so that we can feel, so that the board feels like it contributes. And even though it might be a little bit out of our lane, but in working with administration, because this budget failed so significantly, that we need to feel like we're a part of the fix, which you mentioned, and we have to make some hard decisions. And I might not be around for those decisions, but the next board will. That we need to look at the staffing. We have never, for 2 years I've been asking for this. I want to see the overtime budget, and I want to see the staffing budget. Because we truly don't know what kind of staff. We keep hearing we're overstaffed, but we haven't seen that staffing budget. And the board needs to sit with administration to see where is our staff. And I think the community would feel much better if they knew we were working hand in hand with administration to know exactly where our staffing needs are and where you say we're overstaffed. And where these overtime and overruns were and where they can be cut. Even you're showing that you're going to cut overtime. And it's like, well, how can we cut them? And why were they overrun with budget overruns? It's like we need to be more a part of the fix this time around. So those are the two asks I have in this budget fix, if I'm going to vote for this budget and this number. Overtime, the list of overtime, and the list of staff to fix this budget, to rebuild trust, and truly improve communication.
And Cheryl, I'm going to be really careful now because we discussed this in executive session, and I'm not allowed to tell you what gets discussed in there. But I think with the help of the board and the administrative team, the people at this table, it's become painfully obvious to me where there was a breakdown in communication. And the people at this table besides me have been through so much. People in the audience have been through so much. But I believe that there is, what was said in exec tonight about it's like an artery, a clogged artery. There's a way that's going to go a long way to start that process. And guess what? Trust is like respect. You can't buy it, you gotta earn it. And we've had a breakdown. But the true test will come a few weeks from now, a few months from now, a year or two from now. If the ship is righted, and we are moving in the right direction, and it is my personal belief after listening to everybody in here tonight, listening to people since I got here, watching the administrative team and the board work, we are taking a big, strong first step. We're not trying to overstep, we're not trying to overreach, and we're saying to the community, this is the first step. And again, I would say, jobs like this, board members, administrators, you don't get your report card till after you're gone. And when you leave, people said, hey, they tried their best and we made progress. That's good. I do believe the reasons for this will come out over time. But I do not believe anybody at this table wants to be where we are. But they're fully committed, not only now and in the future, to making sure we move forward and we never, ever come back. And dare I say, we may be a cautionary tale and a shining example to others what to do. We might help others not fall into the same trap we fell into. But the most important thing now is it's time. It's time to move forward. It's time to, we need to have the parameters to make the plan for next year. So I think it's time. You have spoken, and like I said, I'll say it one more time. You want time with me? Just simply call the office. We'll make time for you. You know, I prefer you come in groups because if I try to do everybody individually, it's going to take a lot of time. But I'm more than happy to meet with you in groups or individually to sort of try to help show you what's being done. Because this team up here really deserves they're so focused on the future right now, it's time to vote.
I think we're next up to a resolution for the legal notice for the district budget.
Make sure. Yeah. I recommended by the superintendent of schools. Resolution of the Board of Education, South Country Central School District, Brookhaven County adopted proposed May 26th on a special district meeting qualified. A special district meeting of qualified voters shall be held. I think I can just. No. I'm looking at. I think I'm looking for the number. Let's see that. Okay. Yeah, recommends in the first resolution for a budget hearing to be held on June 9th. A special election will be held on June 16th. I believe I can say at this point, this resolution as written sets us up for the vote, to the revote on we'll have a budget hearing on June 9th and we'll have a revote on June 16th. Resolution as written is recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So this one, we have the recommendation from the superintendent. I will take, I'll have to have a motion in a second, and then our clerk will do a roll call vote. So, upon recommendation of our superintendent, is there a motion to approve the second vote and the timing that was set forth in the resolution? Is there a motion? I'm sorry? C2, yes. Is there a motion to approve item C2? Motion. Trustee Pacini, is there a second? A second? For the legal notice, it's item C2. Item C3 will be the number. So C2, I had Vice President DeLillo, and now our clerk will take the roll call vote. Yes, questions or discussion?
No, just discussion. We have a very patient group here tonight, and I thank you for your patience. And I appreciate the confusion that everyone's under right now. And I'm just having a conversation with the superintendent that we gave you a survey tonight. And we asked you to vote on the survey of what you wanted. And a question came up about piercing the cap. And the superintendent's pretty confident that the community isn't going to want to pierce the cap. And I have to admit, I'm not confident of that either, but I'm pretty confident that we confused you tonight by giving you a survey and saying, tell us what you want. And then you told us, and now we're doing a vote anyway. Exactly. Hence the communication breakdown.
We need more time.
It's crazy. It's just crazy times. The problem that we have here tonight, as he is explaining, and as Mr. Belmonte explained, we're under crunch time because of legal notices that have to go out. And our past district clerk is nodding at me because she acknowledges that, even though she supports going somewhere in between. And that's where we are with this situation right now. So that's why I asked for a discussion right now. And so if we can just speak to the time frame that we are under with this vote. Mr. Belmonte, could you just please explain the time frame again, please?
Certainly. Once the board adopts a budget to be presented to the community, we need to get out a legal advertisement in our two papers, ASAP. We have a very constrained time period to do that. As of next Tuesday, we have to have a budget document prepared and ready 7 days prior to the budget hearing. And the budget hearing will take place on June 9th. So those are the timelines that we're currently up against. And June 16th, the following Tuesday, will be the budget vote.
Even a few more days this week. You just certified the survey. You want some answers, no?
The survey doesn't even ask them about.
Does the survey ask questions about, no questions, it's only,
Do you support the tax levy of 5.25? Support, do not support? Need more information. Given the reductions already made to reach tax levy cap, would you support additional reductions of approximately $3.9 million required to adopt a contingency budget? 0% tax levy increase, although no one knows what that means in terms of programs. Yes, no, need more information. As the district moves forward, what should be the highest priority? Select two, although you can actually select more.
can I interrupt you, but not rudely? My hope is that we can do a Google survey that has more information about the issues that we've heard about tonight. The arts, the music, the sports, the
elementary teachers
important.
that keep getting access. So,
Right.
That was the AIS question. The 4 math AIS teachers are going to knock out an additional 4 elementary teachers. But nobody wants to share that with the public.
So we have a motion.
We'll move the question.
And, ready to call the question and our, we'll call the.
Okay, so the roll call vote on the legal notice, Chris Puccini? Ann Hayes? Ann Hayes?
Yes.
Cheryl Felice? Deborah DeMillo?
Yes.
Erica Calderon?
Yes.
Robert Felicetta? Christopher Ross?
Yes.
No.
So that's 6 yeses, 1 no, and it passes. No?
Sorry, could you read the results again? 6-1?
Yes.
Okay. Then, the resolution passes.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, item C3, budget adoption, as written, this is the resolution that is for a budget of $144,846,580 and the tax. What's the second, John? 5.52%. As written, do we have a motion?
Is there a motion to approve item C3? This is a recommendation for a budget of $144,846,580. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve the expenditure? Trustee Pacini, is there a second? A second by Rock Felicetta. Questions or discussion? Then we're to the clerk for a roll call vote again.
I actually have something to say. Usually I'm very quiet up here. And I can't be right now. Last Wednesday I sat in the car with my daughter, who's an 11th grader, and all she could say was how she felt the community did not like their students. It was heartbreaking. For 10 minutes, with tears in her eyes, and me trying to focus on driving home and not veering off the road, it was horrible. I sit here tonight and I'm listening to all the cuts in the programs and think of the classes that my daughters have gone through. My daughter is a sophomore in college, all the classes she took and how they helped her. And my senior who just confirmed her acceptance and the classes that she has taken and the teachers that have meant so much in their lives. I have faith in our community. 13 was wishful thinking, and I really do wish that it passed, but it didn't. I hope that our community can come to a number in the middle and preserve some more of these programs.
Are you guys offering them? You're not offering us a number. It's not, people, not the kids, we're not only needing the kids. We have to pay taxes on our house and property. We lose our property, our taxes, who's gonna bail us out? Nobody.
I know.
Just have 1 second. Look, there needs to be some conversation after what we heard tonight. But I do know one thing. We're going to open September 1st. Having been in situations similar to this before, one of the big concerns, how are we going to make sure our kids are competitive and get into, whether they want to go to trade school, traditional college, military. There will be ways, there are ways, and the folks in those institutions do understand that school districts do end up in this situation. So what I have seen in my experience in the past is that they take care of kids. But I know this, September 1st we're going to open, kids are going to come back. And we're going to, this community is going to be back at the table again next spring. And look, the cap is still a significant increase. That's a significant number. The problem is, because of decisions that we made here over the last 10, 12 years, we're in a tough spot. But the fact of the matter is, the real true test is going to be 5 or 6 years from now when we look at what was the average tax increase over the last 5 or 6 years in the year 2032. So if we community spoke. The community spoke. And a lot of people said, hey, we can go a little bit, but we can't absorb this huge number at once. And we're gonna have to come back next year, and then this table is going to be again saying, we need to pay for our programs. And we've said this is a 2 or 3 year fix. So if we ask for too much now, suppose, look at it, there's another way to look at this. We're asking for what we're asking now, and if things are put in place, and if you want to talk about rebuilding trust, if we handle this situation correctly, then next year we can go back to the second installment. And the hope is that when the cuts we're making, it's just, it's like when you prune a bush or prune a tree, we want it to grow back healthier and stronger. We're in a tough situation. But we can't just focus on this year and this year alone. Because there's going to be another year and another year and another year.
Excuse me, we're in the midst, we need to have a roll call vote.
Can we get back to that?
You can't sit there and allow, and have us listen to you and not allow us to speak. You sit there and listen to the same thing.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Keep saying commentary tonight.
And tell everybody to shut up. It's not right.
All right.
It's not right.
When people are calling out from the audience, it is right.
We're gonna have to recess if the business of the district is interrupted. So
It's fine. It's
Wait,
one on that one.
wait, hold a second, please. We can, if we have to go back to public and you want to sign up and come to the microphone.
Yes.
I'm trying to do the same thing over and over again. All of you just sit there and say the same thing over and over again. That's it. I'm tired of hearing it. Do something about it. Stop telling us you
right, the
motion pain and you completely pour pain on it.
Can
That's
you
all
hear
you've
us?
done.
Can you take the roll call vote?
So the roll call vote for the budget adoption, Trustee Pacini,
But that wasn't done.
President Hayes,
We can't hear.
Yes.
Please don't.
Trustee Felice. This is the roll call, okay. Vice President DeLillo,
She clearly doesn't care about that. No, she's been shut down, and it's not fair.
I couldn't hear you.
Vice President DeLillo.
No.
Trustee Calderon. Trustee Felicetta. Did he say yes? Yes. Trustee Ross. I'm sorry.
No.
So 4 yeses and, I'm sorry, and 3 noes. It passes.
The resolution passes. So we now have completed business. No. Nothing from that end of the table. Okay. All right. Then is there a motion to adjourn? A motion to.
Wait, but I thought that there was more.
Are there more speakers?
Yes.
Then please come fill out a card. I'm sorry. Why don't you mind? Who speaks? Anyone who wants to speak needs to come get a card. In the meantime, I have one speaker, Abena Asari.
So, hi folks, I am a mom of 2 in the district. Each time I come to these boards, I'm struck by one thing. There is so much expertise, insight, and ideas out here in the floor. And it's not to say that there's not expertise, insight, and ideas here as well. There are, but there is this gap that I see every time in which we have thoughts and ideas about transportation, about who's being cut, about ways in which we can save, and it's met with this like awkwardness in which it's hard to get an answer. And then we are told to email and we'll get answers. And we email and we don't get transparent answers about APs, about rules. We don't. So I am always about trying to find a fix. I think it would be great to not come back here next spring. Please, sir. That was frightening to me to hear we will be back here next spring to do this again. We don't need to wait until next spring to have this stilted interaction. My idea is that we should have a board, a group of kids, moms and dads, taxpayers who meet not only in the spring, but around our year with our board to talk specifically about fiscal cuts. Because we are in a place of fiscal cuts and things will be cut, but we don't really feel like our ideas about the places to save and about what ought to be cut are being heard. And we don't trust that we can come here and be screamed at and told to sit down. This is an idea. Can we have a group that meets every month to actually talk with and advise the board about what should be cut and how we can save funds? Because this does not work. And this is a way to build trust. This is a way to get all of this expertise that we have from our people who teach, from our dads, our moms, our folks who are here. We need more input. And this is not a structure that gives input, as we can see time and time again. So that is where I'll stop for now. Thanks.
Next is Samantha Cusack. I'm sorry.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wasn't planning to, but I just wanted to say a couple of things as someone that's new both to the school district as a parent and also new to the community. My oldest daughter is almost completing her first year of kindergarten this year, and while so many things are amazing, this has just been a very disappointing year, as you can imagine, for all of the reasons everyone's described. And I do like Athena's meeting about getting the parents and the community more involved throughout the year, and not just now where it seems a bit contentious and adversarial and like there's actually people yelling at each other. What I will say is that, and I don't remember who it was, someone earlier, I think it may have been Superintendent Dolan, made a comment regarding like the community has spoken. The community spoke without the facts, right? All you're hearing from the media is this is the biggest increase in Long Island history of 13%. They weren't given all the facts of what would be cut, and they're still not giving the facts. So I think my disappointment after sitting here for the last hour or so is that almost exactly 1 hour ago we were given a survey. There's been no time for you to review like we're talking right now about rebuilding trust. I feel like I've lost trust in the last hour. How can we be given a survey 1 hour ago and now you're voting on the very thing that the survey was meant to inform? I just feel like, again, I'm new to the district, something seems like it's missing here, and I think it really would behoove the board to get the community more involved. I think you'd be surprised that people do want an increased budget, they don't want any of these cuts, even if it does mean a little bit of higher taxes. So if there's any way to be very clear, layman's terms, people don't understand, even right now amongst the people in this room, I don't think we understand what you just voted for. Was that the contingency budget? Was that in between? Like, it's very unclear, and I just think to you all, this might be, course of business and makes sense, but there's so many people that are not familiar with these numbers, are not familiar with this process, and they really need to know in layman's terms what exactly is being cut and what is at stake, and somehow circulate that, because not everyone in the community, unfortunately, is tuning in right now for various reasons. So if there's any way to circulate this more broadly, I think that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Next, Beth Sanazi.
Hi y'all, I'm sorry, I don't want to put terrible cough. I ran out of cough, so I'm very sorry. I just wanted to quickly say, I think what I'm frustrated in this conversation is this is our last vote before we go to contingency, and I think that's not being clear to the community. This vote fails, we go to contingency, which is an additional 5, 9, 6. I'm losing it, but I think that's what that needs to be clear. We don't have a chance to pierce the cap to this vote. We tried it, it failed resoundingly. We don't have a chance, and I think we just need to discuss that. If we can put it at the cap, we have a chance to pass it, and it needs to pass. Everyone needs to turn out and pass this budget and be behind it and be comfortable about it. If we don't pass this, I can't imagine. I'm sick to my stomach. I have 3 boys in the district, including a kindergartner. It's not an AP class. It's not a music. I mean, that's not the community I want to live in, and I don't think any of you want to. So I'm just going to put it out there. Really just make it clear that it's contingency or this 5.25. There's no room for the other. Now, one other thought that I was going to say earlier, and I chickened out, was I just want to make sure that we're negotiating every concession in all of our contracts. I have not heard that said at all. We are in a fiscal crisis. I am a union member as well, so, but where are the concessions? Where are the retirement incentives? Where are the insurance buyouts? Where are all those little things that add up to a lot of organization? I haven't heard a single teachers. I hear kindergarten classes of actually 28, so actually that has been said in our new language information session, which was also sickening 2 weeks ago for many of us. That's unacceptable. Those are not where we, that's not okay. So thank you all.
I just think it needs to be said. We can't talk about contracts and recommend concessions in public. That we would get hit with an improper practice charge. And I'm looking at the union heads in here, and they're all nodding their heads yes. So everybody understand that. Okay, we can't talk about that. Okay, it's not that we don't want to. It's not, whether it was discussed in private thought about it. It would be illegal. We would get slapped with a charge pretty quick.
You can't discuss specifically.
We can't discuss. We can't sit here and say, hey, we want the bargaining units to do this. If I'm wrong, our attorneys are right.
I think you responded to her concern.
Yeah, well, I just wanted everybody to understand that's all.
Our last speaker, unless somebody else has brought a card up, Kenyatta Augustin.
Hi everyone. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I'm going to face the community. The main reason why I ran in the first place was to be the person to bridge the gap between the community and the board. Abina, I hear you, and I agree with you 100%. So my plan, once I'm sworn in, is to get the community involved because we want to hear what you guys have to say. You guys might have more information to share with us to help you guys to be better, for us to be better, and for you guys to trust us again. So I just wanted to share that. My goal is to bridge the gap between the community and the board, and I promise you that's what I'm going to do. I want everyone to have a voice.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Madam Chair, just one thing, I just was texted that people who texted me got answers, but those speaking didn't.
Yes, it's true.
So, for those who spoke and didn't get answers, do you want to ask your questions again?
Yes.
And I apologize for that. Anybody?
Why the sciences? Why do you pick all the sciences to be cut for AP? In a world where STEM is so important, why is that choice?
I got to throw that to administration.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, but thank you for that question.
No, thank you. Yep.
Suffice it to say that, yeah, I fell victim to answering the questions and I shouldn't have. Look, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back. What happens when we get into something like this?
If we can't give an honest answer, maybe it's something we shouldn't be
No,
cutting.
hold on a second, hold on a second.
No, it's the truth. Maybe those teachers we shouldn't be cutting. Maybe that's something we need to look at, but if we can't, if it's not a very strict.
We're going back to, I can make it as follows. There are a number of things that were brought up in here tonight that we're gonna have to go back and relook at. We're definitely gonna relook at it. I think maybe we should come back to the podium and I'll stay here and answer to the best of the ability. Certain questions that were asked were easier to answer because we don't want to, we have to make some very difficult decisions in terms of where, and again, where the cuts get made and what the impact is going to be and what's our ability to make up people that might miss out when they're younger. Now, we've heard about the AP, we need to go back and relook at it. There are going to be several things, we're going to relook at everything, and then we're going to roll this out and the community's going to vote. We are going to relook at it. As Chris said before, and I didn't say anything about the contracts, but we don't negotiate those in public. You're not allowed to, and it's not because it's not good. Yes, sir.
If you want to speak, please come get a card and put it in order. Now, come forward, please, with the card and not call out from the audience. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate your courtesy.
Can we get answers each? Yeah. That has a question.
I'm having trouble reading the writing. First name Linda Baker. Okay, Linda Baker.
Good evening, everybody. I've been here, I grew up in this district, and my son, my niece, and my nephew go. My question is now, you said that I'm sorry that your daughter's disappointed, but we didn't, the people did not disappoint you. I'm sorry that the budget is cut for the kids, but what about the teachers? You want us to vote for 13% and everybody's getting cut, all these teachers?
Yes.
You want to make the classrooms bigger? You want to get rid of the elementary school? Little kids, fourth grade and 5th grade should not be going to middle school. There's too much bullying going around as this. And you, like I said, it's sad, and now you're gonna give us 2 weeks to vote again?
Right.
That's not fair. And you're talking about trust, and you're talking about this has been going on for 14 years, or 30, whatever years. I went to a meeting last year, and the superintendent went around talking to all the teachers that would say they might get laid off. All of them gonna get laid off. Where are they gonna get jobs from? Everybody's getting laid off. They have lives. They have kids. They have mortgages, houses, and everything. Where are they gonna work in? I was sitting there crying for those teachers, and that's sad. You want us to go for this one, another one, and you still give me the 55 teachers? That's sad. That is sad. Like I said, a lot of people here, a lot of people in this district, there's enough people around here for taxpayers. You got senior citizens that have a house Have their houses paid off and have it's got taxes. If they lose their houses, where are they going? Everybody's losing money. You want to, no matter where you go, you gotta pay. And people leave Long Island, you go to Pennsylvania, you go to South Country, you go down South Carolina, you're still gonna pay. Where is this at? You're talking about trusting us? Our money doesn't go on trees. I clearly support, but you want us to 5% no matter what. These teachers are losing their jobs.
Careers.
Where are they going? Where are they going? What experience are they have? And you're gonna blame on us? I don't want the kids to lose their sports and stuff like that, but you're gonna blame us because we didn't pass something? 13%, that's a lot of money for taxpayers. We're not a black card that you use all our money for. It's just sad, it's really sad. And don't blame on the people that the people have spoken, don't blame it on them.
Yep.
We're trying to survive too. Yep. And especially people that just get Social Security, whatever. They pay their taxes on their houses. They pay their houses, just have taxes. And you're gonna blame us? We're not putting the kids down, but we're trying to survive too. And it's just not fair for the focus something and these teachers are losing their jobs. It's just not right and overcrowded. You're just going to pass the kids on just beginning. And not one more thing. 60% of our taxes go to schools.
David Wright?
I know you guys have an arduous task, and the community also is being placed in a very difficult situation. Regarding some of the suggestions like sports, like AP. Now, I just need this in layman's terms because I'm not 100% sure what happened. You guys voted for a number, right? That was the 5.9%. But then you went and said that you were going to reflect on everybody's comment regarding again sports, AP, music programs, things of that nature. What does that mean? Does that mean that the cuts that you presented that got us to the 5.9% would now be different? Like, let's suppose you're going to add an AP class. Well, you cannot do that with going above 5.9%, but then you would have to cut something else in order to fit in that AP class. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm making sense.
Yes.
But if you are going to add some of those things, then something else is either A, going to have to get cut, or B, you're going to have to go above the 5.9%. Now, I don't envy any of you, and again, I know the community is hurting as well, but how are you going to go about doing that? That's, I think, what everybody wants to know.
I was doing the proverbial tap dance. You're right. We're up against the number, the amount of money, and this is where sometimes too much information we don't want to pit people against each other. Sure. The AP classes that were identified had extremely low enrollment. Now, that's not to say, and we're not gonna, I don't want to put a value judgment on what class is more important, because guess what? If one class that kid gets out of bed for to come to school, it's important. But we do have to look at staffing, class sizes, where we were in the past, and compare us to other places that I believe are successful. And, sometimes this chair, I'm not saying this correctly, but if all of a sudden we're talking about class sizes and then AP classes that are in the single digits run, you can imagine that people are going to turn around and say, why are you running that in the single digits when this one is over here? Why did you cut programs? There is no good place to go. There is no good place to go. And again, I was just thinking this. Some of this anger, some of this frustration, I'm not going to lie and say, well, this is fun, but it's needed. It's needed, and we don't take it personally. But again, when you look at numbers for classes and kids don't sign up for them, what do you do? Well, when the numbers are in single digits, and you're looking at other classes where you're saying to maybe some of the younger kids, we're gonna have to go a little bigger, it becomes, that's the difficulty. Because I will tell you right now, as an educator, 40 years experience, everything in that 13 was good. But also, I also know that look around this room, and there are 25,000 eligible voters, I believe, in town. And how do we make everybody, happy? And you're never gonna do it. I always say this year, if everybody leaves here equally annoyed at me, you have something in common, let's move forward together. Right? We don't wanna cut anything. We don't wanna cut anything, but we know we have to. But what you saw is where we're headed, but if we don't, the final one is gonna come out, and then we're gonna do the presentation, and then the community's gonna vote, and we hope we hit the right number. Because look at us now, try to find $4 more million. Because if the budget goes down, and remember, we go a penny over the cap, we gotta get a 60% majority. And, so I apologize for initially being vague, but I don't want to pit the elementary teachers against the high school teachers. And honestly, I don't want to pit sports against the arts. Because as I just said, if there's one class that makes a difference for a child, and it's the only class that that child loves, and it gets cut, that's devastation.
We are
So we're where we are. We're where we are. And like I said, it is our belief that this is a first step to a process. That's all. And like I said, I truly appreciate your honesty. And I'm glad to finally see your frustration. And I wish you didn't have to be frustrated. I wish you never met me, because if things had been done differently 10 years ago, you never would have met me. But I've fallen in love with the town, so let's fix this.
Back to our speakers. We have Monique Fitzgerald.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all being here. I know it's late and people would like to do other things if they could, but they have to be here because of the situation that we're in. I don't want to be redundant, but I do want to be in solidarity with the teachers, the students, and the parents that already spoke today. We have to do better, and we have to be here for the children, and it's sad that we're in such a dire strait. But I do want to call attention to the fact that community members have been incessantly reaching out to the board for years. This is not the first time we've been in a budget crisis. We've been talking about how much development has been going on in this community that have been getting tax breaks instead of paying their fair share to this school. If you drive down Station Road, you see it now. Warehouse after warehouse after warehouse. Tax abatement after tax abatement after tax abatement. This is why our school is underfunded. And I don't know about the comment about AP classes being low enrolled. I don't think that they're voluntary. I went to this school and I think they pick kids for AP classes. And, we could talk about that process and how come that's low, but yeah, I don't want to put any class against any other class because they're all important and we have a job to do. So I think Abena said it, and I think Kiana said it. We have enough information that we can provide to you all about what we need to do to go forward. And we need honest dialogue and transparency. All this back door, closed door, it gets us right back here. And then we're here all night going back and forth with you. And that's unnecessary. All right, so you know, when we reach out, we're not reaching out because we don't have anything else to do with our lives. We are reaching out because we are trying to talk about the canary in the mine, in the mine. There is something coming down the pipe that y'all not looking at, and you need to. So I implore you to drive your cars around this South Country School District area and see how many tax breaks we are giving out and not getting in for our school and our students.
Thank you for those comments. Buddy Lorenzen.
All right, I'm not going to read everything I wrote before. I did that already. We'll go question by question, and then you can answer them after. So, has the treasurer's 18% salary increase been benchmarked against other comparable districts, and can that data be shared? Is this blocked by the union for discussion, or will I have to make a formal FOIL request? Are there any leadership sacrifices being made, such as the $6,000 car allowance to the superintendent that I mentioned before? Why are some vendor contracts increases going over 100%? Is this competitive bidding being used? Are these really the best prices to get the best value of our hard-earned tax dollars? Why are legal increases going up nearly 20%? Is this standard? Were lower cost alternatives being explored? Are these really the best prices to get the best value for the hard-earned tax dollars? What is driving the increase in overtime? Is it the staffing changes you made or cuts, operational needs, or structural shifts? Can more traditional mailing costs be used further through expanded digital communication like other neighboring districts do already? Will the district provide a plain language budget summary for public transparency, basically giving everyone in layman's terms without using acronyms and terms that they may or may not understand? Lastly, Superintendent Dolan, we've heard you respond to many questions tonight regarding program cuts. We have yet to hear from the Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services and Curriculum, Jacqueline O'Hagan. Can she please address the public on these concerns, since we haven't heard anything from her tonight, and I feel this is really something that she should be tackling since it's directly under her job responsibility.
What was your first name again?
Buddy.
Buddy. I actually wrote some notes. I think I might be able to answer questions you already asked.
All right.
On the couches with you. Competitive bidding, absolutely.
All right.
Remember, Mr. Belmonte came here and was charged with overhauling the whole system, which takes time. But things like overtime and legal costs, all of those things are being looked at. All right, but remember, he came into this months behind the process. The process had already started. There may be recommendations for changes, but really what's going to happen is, you know, once we have a budget and we're locked in, we immediately start looking at next year. Things like RFPs and competitive bidding, absolutely. Just because we've had relationships over time doesn't mean you have to always continue them. I'm confident this was all done under his watch, but the budget, an interesting thing I've written down and sat down before was budget cliff notes. This came up in my meeting on Saturday. I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. He was very nice, but he basically said, I want to be part of this, but I don't understand. And I came in and I said, I spoke to John. I said, John, can we come up with cliff notes so people can really read the, understand the budget? And he said, absolutely, but we're up to our neck right now in trying to get a spending plan for next year. I can assure you that the transportation allowance, that was for a former superintendent, not this superintendent. And again, we are actively looking for a superintendent who wants to be here for 5 years. I would love to say, but I'm 65 years old. And like I said, I promised the board, if things are going well and my advice or whatever happens works out well, I have no problem, reminding and texting you the day the new superintendent. This is why you signed up for this job, keep it going. But we need to do that. As far as Mrs. O'Hagan, I will tell you right now, she's been instrumental. in getting information and fighting for programs. We kept it this way tonight just to kind of simplify it, so certainly, you know, she can, both her and Mr. Huntsman have been, I have to tell you, instrumental in getting Mr. Belmonte and I all the information we need. And I do believe that those two sitting over there really represent the future of this district. But we made a conscious decision tonight to focus on this chair and focus, you know, frustration and anger so that they can listen carefully. And I'm not sure exactly, you know, they could answer the question about AP, they could answer pretty, I think we're answering questions now, which again, the purpose was to listen and we shifted because we wanted some answers. But I think along, you know, going back, the digital part, absolutely. We're gonna look, that's gonna really be the charge for the summer, is moving forward. How can we, and I know you brought up the part about one of the ladies who spoke about committees. It's always a scary word, people run from committees, but we do have regular meetings. This is the Board of Education meeting where you come and you speak to the board. But there are also, I think Kenyatta said, kind of reinvigorating and getting new people to want to sit on whatever types of committees that we need. You know, we'll call them focus groups. And, you know, people are busy, and these are all things that got lost in the tsunami that hit, you know, that was coming, and then it hit, you know, right around Labor Day. Again, I think you asked about Mrs. O'Hagan. Do you have a specific question for her? Or?
Yeah, with the AP classes, like you were mentioning with science, what led to that?
You know, we're going to have to go back and revisit it, but there are AP classes, but the ones that got cut were the ones with the very low enrollment.
So I have a
If you
question.
have a question, please,
Yeah,
please.
I apologize.
Just, he's my husband, I'm just gonna piggyback off of him, if it's okay. With the AP classes that are being cut, are students gonna still have the option to self-study and challenge those exams?
You always have that option. And we're also going to look, I'm a big fan of dual enrollment courses, because an AP is a course where I know, you know, if I'm on paper today, if I'm on Newsday, okay, but we're going to look to forge tighter relationships with local colleges where students can take classes and be judged on the body of work, not just a one-day test. But again, I swore I wasn't going to say that tonight because I don't want to muddy the water, but that is I think a fairer and more cost-effective way for students to begin to accumulate credits. Because remember that AP test, if you have a bad day, you wake up with a headache or something goes wrong, and you don't do well on the test, there's nowhere for you to turn. So I'm not, you know, I am not pretending that we're going to have that discussion tonight, but, you know, Mrs. O'Hagan is fighting very hard for curriculum. Mr. Huntsman is fighting very hard to make sure we have everybody in place, personnel-wise, and everybody's. So we already have foundational building blocks for the future right here in-house.
Okay, let's go back to our people who put in cards. Corey Yablon, Carrie Palillo, Barbara Schatzman, Kenny Dean, and Patty Wright. Please come up in order.
My name is Teacher Boyce, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Point of clarification to the budget process, and this was due to a couple of comments you made, Dr. John. As I understand it, you were asking us and telling us we could reformulate, go back, take people's suggestions and questions and options, but do I understand correctly, as a board, although it was not unanimous, and I recognize that, but as a board, you all just approved the budget September 4th. So, do I understand incorrectly? We can't go back and reformulate numbers with community suggestions now because the line item that was proposed to us tonight with the cuts as proposed by Mr. Belmonte and the crafting of everyone here, that we can't go back and reformulate. So can you help me with that's my misunderstanding, that's my first thing. The other thing is.
Before you go to the second.
Oh, I didn't want to do this up my next 2 minutes, Ms. Ann.
But the motion. Okay.
Sure, Ms. Ann.
So with regard to what happened
Can we pause
tonight, it's, we approved a budget of the, I don't have it written.
So it's the dollar figure.
The dollar figure, now, that will be the dollar figure that will be voted on in June.
Okay.
And what was referred to is the components of that dollar figure will be adjusted based upon what we're hearing tonight or any other input that may come in.
Thank you for that clarification. The other, continuing, to bridge the gap in communication with our community, I wonder if it would have been possible to tonight show us menu options, for lack of a better explanation, of here's what 5.5% looks like, here's what 6.5% looks like, here's what 7.5% looks like, so that we as a community, as you all know, we are all the stakeholders here, and we all have buy-in. And when people are respected and able to contribute, they will be able to support and be a part of something, even if they don't necessarily like it, they will understand and respect it and support it. So I ask for the consideration in the future that the current school media specialists, I don't know if we have a PR firm, media specialists, creative writers, superintendent of curriculum, bridge together with the local libraries. The local libraries, our retirees unions, all of our non-school attending population, they feel very left out and uninformed. And if we had a team together bridging the gap, because I do not want to be married to my phone. I want to be married to my husband, not my phone. I don't want to have to watch the Facebook feed and listen and try to kind of smooth out the ruffled feathers. So I believe we need to bridge together, similar to what Dr. Sari was saying, in a slightly different way, really using our public spaces and our public options like libraries that are so well attended by our retirees and our children and our future generation population of parents. Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion. Karen Palillo?
I apologize, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, I did not dress for the occasion. So my name is Carrie Palillo, and I've been a literacy coordinator here for 11 years. My husband is Nick Palillo. He's been teaching here for 16 years, but he's subbed in districts since 2002. We met here, and we have 3 little kids, and we've been in limbo, wondering if one or both of us are going to lose our job and how that's going to turn our life upside down. Today we received an email saying that there wasn't enough time to explain who was getting cut. I thought coming here tonight I would get the facts and the answer, but what I'm really concerned about is that the questions that have been asked that directly impact our future aren't being answered, and I'm very concerned that you don't seem to know the answer. And how can we vote on something if you're not sure what you're voting for? I want to explain that the 4 math interventionists that were asked about before, those interventionists being cut means that they go back into the classroom, and then the 4 lowest teachers in seniority underneath them get cut. So that would include my husband, who's been here for 16 years. And I'm only speculating that because I'm not sure if that's really what's happening or not. I had to look at the seniority list and think about who's being jumped over and all of those things. And I don't know if the public knows that having that many years into a career and then having to start over would really flip their life upside down. So I'm just really discouraged that we're not sure of the information we're voting on, and I just want to make the point that the people that you are cutting because of what you put up there as math interventionists are people who've been in 16, 17 years in this district and have made their homes here. So I hope you'll just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Mrs. Shaxlin?
There's been a lot of discussion about communication. And this is probably gonna go over like lead balloon with certain people, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because that's just who I am. At one time, when I was on the board, people in the audience would ask questions, and board members would respond.
Wow.
Ask a question, somebody would respond if they wanted to. That went on for quite a number of years that I was on the board. It was discussed by board members that we were getting out of here too late. And we did. We got out of here very late. But my feeling was I got on the board to talk to the community and not look like a bunch of Stepford wives sitting at a table. She knows she was on the board when I said that. I don't know if that would help the community feel like they're being heard. I don't know if board members would want to do that. I think it might be a good idea, and some system worked out where you could limit the amount of time that board members would respond, but I think at least that would make people feel like they're being listened to. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you. Kenny Dean.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kenny Dean. I have two children. One has since graduated from the district. One is an 11th grader. He's not going to go to any AP courses, but he does have special needs. I don't believe that he's getting what he needed. It's not because of the teachers, right? There's a lot of educators in this room, right? And it's not a job, it's a passion. The whole board here, when you're hiring somebody, you hire the best of the best. South Country School District. There's other elevated school districts too, but we're South Country. We're good. You didn't hire people to get rid of them. That's what you're doing. Okay, you hired an assistant principal just this year. You cut him 6 months later, you stole him from New York City. All right, where's he gonna get a job? He's got a kid on the way. All right, maybe the community doesn't know this. That's horrible. Horrible. How do you think that person feels? It's saddening. 2 years ago, how many teachers did you cut? This year, how many teachers are you gonna cut? And you want to cut more. The infrastructure of our buildings, security, $500,000 they want to cut out of security. In this time of age of where national security, and you got people going nuts. We have to protect our children. Every day we send them to school. Look at Sandy Hook, look at some other things that happen, all right? We want to send our kids to school. You're cutting $500,000 out of the budget. Our educators, they went to school for this. They came to South Country School District to get a great job and a great career. I own 2 homes in this district. Can I pay the taxes? Being a retired guy, and I still work a side hustle? Yes, I can. But some people can't. In 1977, I opened up my first bank account, and I used to keep a little log. I have this much, I put this much in, this much came out. I was 10 years old. We're all adults here. How did we get here?
Thank you for your comment. And last speaker is Patty Wright.
Good evening. My name is Patty Reich. I'm a parent in the district. I have 2 graduates from Bellport and currently have a 10th grade son. Thank you for the time you're all putting into this. You're sitting up here as a board, your friends, your neighbors, your leaders. We have community that is hurt, and needing to be heard, needing things to be fixed. The banter a lot of time is like an attack, receive, retort, and it's unfortunate it's like that because this has been nice to be able to go back and forth, to have a little bit longer time for people to speak and to be able to ask questions and have them answered in person. For years, I would never want to email the board because I thought, oh, that's such a pain. So many people emailing, it takes a while to get back. So it is nice to have the back and forth, and I hope we have more than that. I know it's a big problem that we're dealing with. There are so many aspects of our budget and our district, but the main reason we are here are for the kids. The most important things that happen in this district are in the classrooms, on that stage, and on the field for whatever the kids are into, and we have to protect those areas. As it keeps being mentioned here, our educators, they've made careers here. The teachers that we've seen get cut last year and this year, it's just deplorable. They're just teachers that should never be let go. And I know we have to cut somewhere, but the biggest cuts should not be coming from the classrooms, from the people that put our kids on the stages and on the fields. That's what they come for. So many different people spoke here tonight about the reason kids come to school. Sometimes it's to be on that field. And if they're going home at 2 o'clock, they might have nothing else, and their ship's going to sink. We have teachers that, like it was mentioned, there's 4 math positions up, and it's not just about those 4 math positions, and I don't wish for anyone to lose their jobs. But those math positions, those teachers might go to other areas, and now these teachers are leaving. And do you know who these people are? And it's not about favorites. It's about look at the people that have put 17, 18, so many years into this district, the extra things they do, how late they stay, they go beyond, what they mean to these students. I know you all know this, but I really, really hope that when we're readdressing this next budget that's going to be up, that we can look at other ways, other places to cut. I love some of these ideas with the cafeteria idea, the shared classroom, how that would look, I don't know, putting AP in with regular, but still having the AP. Possible to share principals between buildings. May not be popular, but you know, if I couldn't pay my mortgage or my utilities, I'd be immediately moving into a smaller place, not staying in my same position for another year or 2. So I know I've heard that it takes time to close buildings, but we have, you know, so many buildings partially full. Closing 1 or 2 buildings might not be popular, but that would save a lot of money and probably a lot of teachers, not as many empty classrooms, pulling them together. Frank P. Long has been, you know, on the chopping block and the point of contention for so long. We're cutting all these different things, but yet we want our district to grow. No one's going to come here with the trouble that we're in, and I'm not bashing a certain school, but with Frank P. Long being in the news and 6 schools, all that stuff. If you're going to close something, I just wonder, why would it be the school that's in our cute little village, or why would it be another building? Why would it be something that's been controversial? Let BOCES rent it out, combine our teachers, keep our teachers, put us in school, and then we can have training for the future. Not having any sports, but then people want to come to something that's maybe more desirable, and then we can have an income with, I don't know, renting the building, I don't know. Just please, please, carefully look at these. I don't envy your job. I thank you for all your time. You don't get paid. Some people don't understand that. It's completely volunteer. So thank you for everything you're doing, but please, please really look at our classrooms, the teachers. Without the teachers, maintenance is important, leadership's important, but it's the teachers. It really is. We could do okay without a couple extra admin, but you can't do without these core teachers that make all the difference in our school and all the difference for the kids. Thank you.
That concludes the public commentary. I'm sorry. I just wanted to sum up one thing that I've heard. And many of the people who spoke are talking to the future. And I think if we can just go forward, we're looking to the future, we're looking to the future together. We all want it to be better. We're going to take a motion to adjourn. Okay, then we're going to, instead of adjourning right this moment, we're going to take a motion to go back into exec for the reasons stated for the first one, and if a motion by Trustee Calderon, a second, Trustee to go to exec, Delisetta, All in favor? Motion is approved. We will be going into we will not be coming out and making a decision. So that will be will come back out just in order to close the meeting.